episode of the Passion First podcast. I'm your host, Austin Hartley, and I have a phenomenal guest with me today. He's a former Inc. 500 technology chief and had great success until he failed in spectacular fashion that kicked off his, quote, 10 dark years. He had no direction and was financially broken until a friend introduced him to the power of buying large real estate deals that changed the entire course of his life. Now he has a full-on real estate portfolio, is the general partner in over 42 million in assets in just 28 months. So nothing is stopping him. Today he loves helping others get into real estate deals on their own and building their own wealth. Augustino Pintus, it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Hey man, thanks for inviting me. Jazzed up, man. I'm
really
excited.
Looking forward to this conversation. I always ask the same question. If you could tell the audience and myself just a little bit about your background, how you made the transition from corporate life to real estate, and just kind of where you grew up so we can get to know you a little bit better.
Well, I'll tell you, man, I mean, I don't come from any type of very wealthy family or anything else like that. I grew up to Italian immigrants, right? But even from when I was a kid, I had an inclination towards tech and towards computers. And I learned how to write code by the time I was like 9 years old. I was already coding on a Commodore, which most of your audience probably doesn't know what that is, but it's an old computer. and that's how I learned. I learned on this little Commodore computer. And being a first generation growing up in Canada, like most first generation kids, they have the entrepreneurial bug. You know, all the most first generation kids do anyway. So I was one of them, and I was determined I was going to have my own thing. I was going to run my own company. I was going to have my own software computer company. I wasn't even sure what kind of computer company it was. Just going to be a computer company, right? And like anything else, though, when it comes to your family and things like that, they tell you, oh, that's risky. Don't do that. Go work for someone. That's the way to do it. And I was convinced, probably the same way you were, right? It's 40-hour-a-week job doing that. That's what you need to be doing. You need to go put yourself into a soul-sucking scenario where it should be not all jobs are terrible, but it's some of the places that I ended up, not all of them, some of the people I worked with, some of the friends I still have today, they're amazing people, but it wasn't always like that, right? At any rate, I ended up getting into doing the whole 40-hour job thing, and it was going okay. And I ended up eventually becoming a CIO of a big public traded company. It was still in my early 30s, managing giant budgets. I had Corvettes and Hummers and big houses and all this stuff, and started getting into real estate. And I'll tell you, man, one of the reason why I got into real estate was not for the reasons that you and I are in it today. It was because I was afraid. I was living in fear that I was going to always get fired. Like that was the motivation. Even though I was a big time CEO earning six figures, like this is like going 15 years ago, 16 years ago at this point from today. And I'm like, I just want to buy enough single families and small multifamilies to make sure that if something happened, I still have money coming in, which is the totally wrong way to live. I mean, it's like poison for your soul when you're living in fear all the time, right? So fast forward a couple of years, I'm trying to build this real estate deal and I'm buying like single families, small multifamilies, and doing all this. And of course, eventually what I thought was going to happen eventually happened, right? They kicked me out of this company despite all the success I built for these guys. Kicked me out. All right, no problem. But we have to really watch what we say to ourselves, right? Because your brain is always listening. And I convinced myself that I was a failure. I did what we did as a company was huge. And now they just, cut me off cut my legs off, you're done. And I convinced myself that, I suck. And that kicked off those 10 dark years, man. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was going from job to job to job. I was sending out resumes, like literally 100 resumes a day. if you had an email address, you got my resume. You probably got my resume somewhere in one of your inboxes. All right. Everyone's got one of my resumes. Right. And despite all that, it's like, I still wasn't getting the thing that I wanted, which was from the time I was a kid, and that's one way. And if anybody listening, that's one way to learn what you really want to be doing is what did you want to do when you were a kid? And I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I totally ignored that.
Yeah.
Right. But I had to go the corporate route at this point. I still had the technology, how should I say, the technology aptitude, and I still had the pedigree, so to speak, working at some very large companies as an executive at the C level in tech. So I kind of had to do that. But I made a determination to get out of it, and that's when this friend of mine, like you'd mentioned before, he told me about syndication, right? I did not know what this was. And we're talking like 5 years ago, 4 years ago, something like that. And as soon as he told me what it was, my eyes opened up. I'm like, oh my God, that is what I need to be doing. That is what I need to be doing. I understood real estate.
Yep.
I understood like the single family space. At that point, I've been doing it for about 10 years, 12 years, something like that, probably a little bit longer. But I've only been doing single family, So once he told me about how syndication works, and you're able to leverage other people's money into a deal, you give them a return, you build wealth for everyone. It's a no-brainer, man.
No-brainer. Yeah.
It's a no. So I'm like, this is what I need to be doing. So I told my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, I told her, I'm like, you know what? Here's the plan. I'm going to consult for a company. Then when I'm ready, I'm bouncing in front of that company. I'm doing this full time. I quit a career, a 20-year career in IT at the C level, earning 6 figures to do real estate. That's awesome. What I did. And you know what, man? There has never been a single day since that I've ever said, my God, I wish as hell I can go back to doing that. Never. It's never happened. It's never happened. It won't happen. I don't see it happening anytime soon, man. No way.
I love it. I just want to highlight a few things in there. Just the fact that you talked about really listening to your self-talk and what other people were telling you when you're growing up. People tell you how you're supposed to live your life. And I think a lot of us get caught up into that. Well, I'm supposed to go to college. Now I'm going to get my corporate job. Then I'm going to buy my car, get my house. I'm going to get married. And there's this structure to it. And we're all different. There's different things that make us excited. If you really want to be a veterinarian or have a 9-to-5 job and that's what excites you, great. But for me and you, that's not something that worked for us. It was soul-wrenching, crushing. And I think society tells you if you don't fit into this square hole, then you're a failure. There's something wrong with you. And it's so, so important to have that positive self-talk and believe in yourself. Because you're obviously very, very successful, very smart guy. And just because you weren't happy and you had a setback, a lot of people, they get so down on themselves and are so hard on themselves that they can let something like that ruin their life. It's very important, I think, just to have that self-talk and be resilient and focus on what's going to make you happy. So I love the fact that you just had the intention of following that childhood dream, quitting the corporate life that you had a very successful job for 20 years and you still made the jump and you're ecstatic. You love what you're doing. You have some swag. Like life is good. So I love hearing that. Let's talk a little bit about real estate. Your friend, I want to hear the story of how he told you about syndication, maybe like your first syndication deal. If you can get into some of those details and share with the audience.
Yeah. It's funny because I was, this is right after I left that last company, the last corporate job that I had before I got a short-term consulting gig before I quit that.
Yep.
And I was in Virginia, and because I was unloading all my rentals, I was unloading everything. So I knew I was going to do something. At the time, I was thinking I might do something in real estate, but I wasn't clear. I did not know. But right after I left that the big corporate job, I went to Michigan, sold off some stuff, went off to Virginia, sold off more things because I had other properties at that time. I had single family. I was unloading, and I'm sitting in my car and I look outside and I just happen to be on the phone with a friend of mine. He's an attorney. He's a real estate attorney. I mean, we're not super close, but he's a good guy. He's a friend,
Yeah.
And he said, and he was talking to me about doing some Bitcoin thing. And no offense, I just don't understand Bitcoin.
Yeah.
To me, it's highly speculative. I do sure things.
Hmm.
Real estate's a sure thing to me. It's physical. I can see it. I
Yep.
understand it. Right.
I'm with you.
So I'm sitting in my car, I look outside, and I see this 30-unit building. And I say to him, I go, "Hey man, like, who owns that? Like, who owns this? Who owns these buildings?" He's like, "What are you talking about?" I go, "I see, like, I don't know, 30, like, I didn't say 30 apartments because I didn't even know. It didn't even cross my mind." I go,
Yeah.
like, it's like a building, where people live in or something like that,
Yeah.
right? Because I didn't know units, I didn't know apartment, it wasn't even a thing for me, right?
Hmm.
And he's like, "What do you mean? People own them?" I go, "What people? Like who?" He's like,
Yeah.
"Well, normal people. They just go and they do something called syndication, and they borrow, or not borrow, but they raise money from other people, and they raise the down payment, and they buy the deal."
Yep.
And I'm like, "Oh my god, that's what I need to be doing." Right. And that's exactly what I did. I mean, he gave me very little information, but right after that, I got to refreshing all my real estate stuff, right?
Hmm.
Because and I studied everything. I got my hands on all kinds of materials from all different types of gurus, but not the gurus you'd think that you see around today, because they didn't exist back then. They're
Yeah.
like, syndication was a thing, but it wasn't really prominent like it is today. They're like, it just wasn't, right? And what I did was I studied like Robert Kiyosaki, Sam Zell. I found some old stuff from like Carlton Sheets from, you don't probably even know who that is.
I don't.
Right. I mean, he is one of the original real estate gurus, right? That talked about, like, buying with no money down and all that stuff. All it was creative real estate.
Yep.
That's all it was. Mainly around single family homes, but still applies to multifamily to some degree. But of course, I didn't know any better. If they have to do with real estate, I'm studying it. And man, I was taking down programs like, I would turn into a machine. I plugged in my headphones. I wasn't working. All I
Hmm.
did was listen to books day in, day out, day
Wow.
in, day out. It's all I did for weeks. And my girlfriend at the time, who we just started dating, she was looking at me like, "Wow, what's up with this guy?" It's all I would do is listen to these books all day long, because I was hell bent on doing real estate. I trained like a maniac, and I didn't have any family there, I didn't have any friends there. It was just she and I,
Hmm.
right? So once I made that decision, that's the thing though, man. The same thing that killed me, quote, killed me before in
Yeah.
terms of entrepreneurship, can also save you, right? Meaning, if you tell yourself that you suck,
Yeah.
no matter what happens. If you tell yourself that you're going to be a real estate entrepreneur, you're going to build success, you're going to do what you say you're going to do,
Hmm.
that's what's going to happen, right?
Exactly.
That's why you have to watch what we say to ourselves, because your brain is always listening, man, no matter what. So I made a decision. I decided that that's what I was going to do. And I said, I'm going to consult for this company. And when I'm done consulting with that group, I am done. I'm burning the bridges. I am not doing it again.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I did, man. I mean, I just trained. I syndicated my first little deal. It was just over $1 million. And I was stoked, man. It was over $1 million. And I'm like, "Oh my God, it's over $1 million. Oh my
Yeah.
God." I was so nervous, right? It's like, now I won't even look at a deal for under $1 million. I mean, I'll put it this way. I'm right now, I'm doing a deal that just fell in my lap, and just the raise it was 1.5 million on this little deal, right? So it's like, and we're also doing another one with two other partners, and that one is going to be $110 million when it's completed,
Wow.
dude. It's going to be a smoke. This is not just any building. I can't tell the audience yet, because we haven't
Hmm.
closed. I have NDAs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm glad to come on, in a couple of months we can talk about it,
Yeah.
because it's something to see, man. But I'm telling you, it's a far cry from going from 10 years of pain
Hmm.
to now doing what I do today. And now that the mindset has shifted, I mean, now I envision a whole future for myself,
Hmm.
and that's the future that I'm living.
Yep.
right? Because I'm doing it on purpose, right? Where the old me would come home, sit on my ass and watch TV. I don't do that anymore. Now, I don't even watch TV anymore. Neither my wife and I don't watch TV. All we do is we focus on our work and focus on building our future,
That's
So,
awesome.
but that's the thing though, man, you get 24 hours in a day, and that time is never replenished. It's gone. Once you spend it, it's gone. So
Yeah.
you got to make the most of it, right? That's all we got. That's
Yeah.
all we got.
It
Yeah.
really is. And I love the highlighting of the self-talk, and I liked how you talked about how you were investing in real estate out of fear, because you didn't have control over your income at that
Yeah.
point. You were at the mercy of this company, and they ended up letting you go, and your fear was actualized. And that's how a lot of people live in that state. Right now, we're recording this just at the start of May 2020, during the whole coronavirus pandemic lockdown, and I think unemployment's getting close to 30%, something
Yeah.
like that. I mean, just
Yeah.
historic times. But if you were employed by someone, there's a good chance you've lost your job during this time. And both of us, I mean, it sounds like your business is rock and rolling. You're
Yeah. I'm
thriving
fine.
right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm fine. Yeah.
I'm fine too. And it's powerful to have that security. And both of us, I mean, I have had moments of fear, I'm not going to lie, but I base myself in belief and passion and where I want to go, and that freedom and vision. And it's obvious that you do, and that's just so important to develop as you continue to grow as a professional. I want to dig in a little bit more on your education. It sounds
Yeah.
like you made educating yourself your full-time job. You
Yeah.
weren't
Yeah.
watching TV, you were just listening to books, reading books all day. Um, let's just talk about maybe a few books that you felt like were really impactful and helping you grow in real estate, but also just as a professional.
You know, I would say that when I was working at this IT company in Indianapolis, I was still somewhat in a fog. I was working at a great company at the time anyway, and I was doing my thing there. I was a CIO. I was starting to get back into the whole self-improvement thing. I mean,
Yep.
this journey, man, it's Austin is, I wish I could say, oh, you read this book and you're going to make $1 million. It's never like that. It's never like that. It's a long, long, long journey. So, that journey started back then, back in like, 13, 14,
Yep.
so, and I'll tell you, when, when I started getting back into self improvement, and I was listening to a podcast. I forget it was, but someone mentioned On the Shortness of Life by Seneca.
Mm.
That book. That's the book. That's the book that kind of like hit me like right across the face. Boom. Right. Because here's a guy, a philosopher
Mhm.
from thousands of years ago, telling us today on how short our life is. Right. And that one book made such an impression on me that it set the course for my entire life from that moment.
That's awesome.
Right. And now it didn't change anything from like the data that got into my head, but it did amplify the fact that we only get so much time. You might be young and beautiful. You're some listener right now, but might be young and beautiful today. But every day you open your eyes to start your day, you're getting one second, 1 minute, one day older.
Yep.
And you're not going to have the same capabilities that you have right now. You need to harness all you got into what it is you're doing, and it can't be watching Game of Thrones. That cannot possibly be it.
Yep. Yep.
And it sounds harsh, man. I know it sounds harsh, but it's the truth. It is the
It is.
absolute. It's the absolute truth. You just can't do it. I mean, if that's the best you got, then more power to you. But I really do believe that if we really want to live our full potential, we really have to visualize it and execute it. But I mean, listen, for some people, it makes them happy, then that's fine. I'm not going to hate, but I felt that I could do a lot more and I could do a lot better. I can help a lot of people if I apply myself. So that's why I chose to do what I do now. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I hear a lot of people say like, someday I'd like to start my own business. Someday
Yeah.
I'd like to go to Greece or whatever it is. And I think it's not someday, but how can you go next year, next month, today? Like, let's create a plan to make this happen instead of wishful thinking. That's just a dream. That's not a goal, and you're not ever going to actualize it if you're thinking that way. Where if you really just shape your mind of how can I make this happen? I'm going to do this. I'm going to quit my job on this date next year and make it a must. It's not an option. You're committed to that decision. And modeling success, talking about okay, Game of Thrones every week and sitting on Netflix for hours and hours during your Corona vacation. Is that really actualizing your dreams? Is that taking you closer to where you actually want to be in life, or not? And a big aspect of this show is modeling success. And I know a lot of people I talk to don't watch TV. They don't watch a lot of news because it's very fear based.
Yeah.
It's not something that's benefiting them for where they want to take themselves. And my dad, I think one of the reasons I'm very conscientious of self talk is he talked about visualization and self talk a lot when I was growing up. And be mindful of what you say about yourself, um, how you're speaking about yourself, and visualize what you want in life. I was a collegiate athlete, basketball player, and I think the visualization and repetition. There's studies that show that actually improves your performance, and that's really important. So visualizing that you're building this business, whatever your goal is, visualize that, and that's going to take you places instead of watching Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but you know what though? I think part of it too is that the great business people of our time, right? The Rockefellers, the Carnegies, all these guys, the guys that built this nation, they all had one thing in common too, in that they established their goals and they attacked them
Yep.
like with all they got. And I'm not saying they have to be a total psycho to realize your dreams. It's for me, it's getting up, making my coffee, my espresso. After going to the gym, of course, you go to the gym, you come
Mm-hmm.
home, get your coffee rolling, you sit down, and you write. What is your future?
Yeah.
Right? What is it? What do you see? Right? And you don't write it as if it's going to happen in the future. You write it as if it's happening right now.
Yep.
I live in a house in South America on the water, right? I own 12,000 apartment units earning 12% return every year.
Yep.
I have $200,000. I make $200,000 a month. And these are affirmations, right?
Yes. Yep.
And the cool thing is that your subconscious does not know the difference. You can say anything you want as long as you repeat it over and over and over again, right? Every day you write it. You write out your affirmations every day, and you have your vision board that reflects everything in your affirmations. It will happen. Your
Absolutely.
brain finds a way to make it happen.
Yep.
It's amazing.
And I liked how you talked about how this wasn't like a one book, you read it and all of a sudden you're a millionaire and your life changed. It's
Yeah.
a process. It's a
Oh, yeah.
journey that all of us have to go on. I think mine started right after I graduated, kind of the end of my senior year in college, and really a light bulb kind of turning on and just kind of starting to research. I think I started with How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale
Yeah.
Carnegie was one of the first ones that I read. Then on to Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And there's a journey of just growing. And yeah, I've had times that I'm not doing my routine as much as I'd like, but you continually improve. It's that 1% better each day. And when you look back a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, your life is completely different.
Oh, yeah.
The affirmations and vision boards really do work. I've been using them for years, and it's so amazing to update your vision board and be like, yep, I have that now. I've checked that off, and it's tangible now. Like I had a dream of being my own boss, owning my own business, hosting a podcast for the longest time, and I'm doing it now. And you have to stop and smell the roses sometimes. I want to get into a little bit more of the syndication. So what maybe advice you'd have for people who want to be doing what you're doing? Like maybe they've been a single family investor, but they really feel like getting into syndications would take them to the next level. How do they begin if they don't have a large network or a lot of net worth?
Well, it all comes down to first you have to educate yourself.
Hmm.
I'm a real big believer in finding a mentor, and it's funny because before I started down this whole thing, you asked me about the whole book scenario. Because my background was high tech, was technology based stuff.
Yeah.
I felt that for every job I held previously, as long as I did my job and I do it well, which I did,
Hmm.
then there should be no reason for anybody to hate me.
Yep.
But I was wrong. I was wrong. And that's because I did not master human relationships.
Mm.
And I so the books, yeah, there's the technical stuff around, what cap rate is and NOI and yada, 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 all that stuff.
Yep.
But I also centered a great deal, even in our education program, a great deal for the material that we cover has nothing to do with real estate.
Yeah.
It has to do more with psychology, sales, marketing, things like that. It has nothing to do. I mean, there is real estate stuff. As a matter of fact, in our course, the real estate stuff is all online.
Yeah.
Right? We talk about that. When I talk to my students, I don't talk about real estate. I mean, I might talk about a deal that I have or whatever, right? So they can learn from it. We're talking about sales and marketing. How do you talk to people? How do you approach people? Right?
Mm-hmm.
What are you wearing when you go talk to someone?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I've met so many people that want to get into this business. They show up, literally their shirt is ripped up. They're wearing shorts and flip flops. They're coming to me saying they want to syndicate multi-million-dollar deals. I'm like, dude, really?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
right? So they don't look the part, they don't talk the part, they don't have the emotional intelligence that's necessary to really
Mm-hmm.
convince others,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't have the background. So and it sounds like I'm slamming on them, but I'm not slamming. Again,
Honest. Yeah.
I'm honest.
Yeah.
I'll tell you exactly what people need to hear to be successful at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, because I'm not going to say it without a solution. So uh, part of it is get a mentor. 100%. Get a mentor that's actually going to help you, right? So like I have a mentoring program. It doesn't have to be mine. I don't care who it is.
Yeah, but sure. What's your
But
mentor program?
but with our mentoring program, I mean, we walk through not only how to get the deal done, but once they're ready, I help them with creating their business plan, and then they can go talk to other people about their business plan that I helped them create, and I back them up on their business plan too.
Yep.
Right. So they're not going in alone, because for many of these people that are starting out, they don't have a track record. They need a track record. Right.
Yep.
So just because you don't have a track record doesn't mean your team doesn't, and you can leverage your team's track record is the point.
Mm-hmm.
Right? By
Yep.
leveraging your team's track record to help you do a deal, that's how you build success, right? That's it. So part of it is that you really, for someone new, you really have to bring something to the table.
Yep.
Right? I mean, and what I mean by that is, let's say for instance, you got your hands on an amazing deal, and it's an amazing deal because you learned how to underwrite deals, and you're a master at underwriting deals, and you see the upside there. Then you come to me and you say, hey, you know what, Agostino, I have this amazing deal here. And the first thing I'll be like, yeah, sure you do. Show me this amazing deal. All right. And then you've already run all the numbers. You know the area. You know why it's an amazing deal. Maybe there's some new shopping mall moving nearby. It's going to drive a lot of commerce to the area that no one else knows about. Maybe you got some upside. But the point is that you're presenting value.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right. That's how the human species works. We want to present value to someone else.
Yep.
And then that's how you engage with someone.
Yep.
That's how we do everything. That's how we form personal relationships with other people.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we form relationships with brands of things that we purchase. Whatever we buy, your phone in your pocket forms a relationship with you. You bought it because it gives you pleasure, it gives you benefit.
Yep.
Therefore, you hang on to it. If it didn't, you'd throw it away.
Yep.
Right? It's the same thing goes with these relationships as well. Right? You have to be able to present value. That means knowing the lingo. That means not being a newbie.
Mhm.
That means presenting. Maybe it's not deal flow. Maybe I don't have a problem with deal flow. Maybe I have a problem with I don't know Orlando, Florida.
Yeah.
Right. I'd like to go to Orlando, Florida. I would like to buy in Orlando, Florida at some point. If someone called me up from Orlando, Florida, and said, "Hey, you know what? I'm actually already a syndicator in Orlando, Florida. I would love to partner up with you."
Yep.
And I'd be like, "Cool, let's partner up. All right, what do you got?" And maybe you have a great deal, but they need help raising money. All right, let's raise some money together. I mean, there's ways of doing that, right? Um, but yeah, I mean, it's all about presenting value, and that goes for anything you do. It's not just this business. That this is a universal thing, and that's one of the things that we focus on in our program too. Aside from aside from me and my team backing you up to get into deals, and aside from having the team to help you get the deal closed as well, like I have the entire infrastructure, I have the title companies, the inspectors, like I have all that, right?
Yep.
It's a matter of learning how to demonstrate value. That in itself is huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Yeah.
And I think that does start with just educating yourself.
Yeah.
If you're really just getting into real estate, you really do need to spend some time educating yourself, understand the lingo, the terminology, how people dress, how do people carry themselves, get a mentor who can show you the ropes and just educate you. And then I think adding value, all of us are unique and different. We all have very different strengths. Something that one person is going to be great at, like an underwriter, they might not be great at raising funds and presenting in front of people. And so find your strength. We all have strengths, and just focus on that, develop that skill, and be able to show the value of that skill to others, because you'll be able to find a partner that's a great fit. One thing I'd highlight is a lot of times people seem to try to attract partners that they're very similar to.
Yeah.
So they kind
Yeah.
of have the same skill sets, and it's important to find a partner that balances you out, where you're actually adding value. So if that's a partner, a mentor, whatever that is, make sure that your skill set is really adding value. It's not a duplication of what they do.
Well, you know what? I'll give your audience a quick thing for them to use on there. This is very helpful for me anyway.
Yeah.
So there, for every single human on this planet, we fall into we have four traits that are predominant, right? One of these four traits, right? And practical, action, social, emotional. It's these four things, right? So, for instance, I'm an APES. I'm very, very action oriented. Then I'm practical, all right?
Mhm.
Then I'm emotional. Then I'm social. So that means that. So I tend to look at things through the lens of getting things done very, very quickly. Hurry, 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 hurry.
Yep.
Then I'm very practical. Then I'm emotional. Then I'm social. So I have my partner, on the other hand, they're very practical,
Mhm.
right? They're action oriented, and then they're very social. But they're not very emotional, right?
Yep.
So for me, what I've realized is that with an action-based person, I'm always like on the go. So that's good. I start a lot of things, but on the downside, action people don't actually finish anything.
Yeah.
So but you know what though? I'm aware of it, right?
Yep.
Where a practical person, is going to be they're going to be very thoughtful. They're going to come up with a plan of attack. They're
Mhm.
going to think about it,
Mhm.
and then
Mhm.
think about it some more,
Yep.
and then wait, and then think about it again, and then maybe at some point take some action, right?
Yep.
So I'm an action-based person. If I find a practical person that is also in this space,
Mhm.
it's a match made in heaven, right?
Absolutely.
If they're also an action person and I'm an action person, all we're going to be doing is buying a bunch of stuff and nobody thinking about it. so, but I mean, I went through a very, very high overview of this system, the PACE system, but it's a great way if you are a very practical type of person where you like to plan things
Mhm.
and you really like to understand the nuts and bolts about something. Partner up with an action based person who's not going to crush you, right? Because they tend to be very, they want to get things done very, very quickly. You kind of have to keep up with them.
Yep.
but at the same time too, they'll keep you motivated,
Yeah,
right? As long as you feed that action person information, they will in exchange give you the little jolt you need to keep things rolling, right? That in itself right there is a great match. It's a great matchup.
that's a
The A and the
perfect way of explaining
yeah,
the balance between that and getting into that. That's some of the intangible skills of understanding marketing, sales, psychology, understanding people's different personality traits, whether that's a PACE, whether that's a DISC assessment, Myers Briggs, the Big Five, and being able to identify those quickly really is able to help you present to your audience. If you know
absolutely.
someone's practical base, get into the details. Slow down. I'm very action based too, so I get quick. I want to check things off the list. But in my sales presentations, if I know someone's more analytical and practical, I have to take a step back, mirror my audience, know who I'm talking to, slow down, get into the details, be calm, make sure that they understand everything, and that we're matching what they need to understand the process and deal.
100%.
Yeah.
That's right.
Um, let's talk a little bit about your Bulletproof cash flow show. I want to understand how this came about and how it's also benefited your real estate career.
Like anything else, like everything else, is kind of an accident.
Yep.
it's I'll tell you. I was it's actually my wife's idea. So she says it was what was it? It was a well, first is meetup. She says
Yep.
I ought to do a meetup. This is we had just moved to Akron, and we were looking to buy stuff in Cleveland and Akron area, and so it started off with a meetup, and I'm like, really, a meetup? All right, So we came up with a name for it, and we started hosting these meetups, and that in itself turned into the podcast. Again, her idea to
Mm-hmm.
start doing that, right? And it kind of like, again, we kind of like figured it out as we go, right? Where now it's one of those things that as I'm talking to students,
Yep.
and if I feel like a student has an aptitude to do it,
Mm-hmm.
to do a podcast, I'll tell them, hey, you know what? Go out there and find your tribe, do a podcast, So, I mean, I could have saved myself a whole lot of time if I had a mentor
Yeah.
telling me this. Where she wasn't really a podcaster, but she knew, like, she was doing like remote training and things like that. So she
Mm-hmm.
was already in that sphere. I wasn't, right, dude. That podcast thing was the best thing, man. It has opened up so many doors for me personally. It's got me really tight with many people I would have never met.
Yep. Yep.
It's just it's a game changer, total
Yeah.
game changer. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
And it's not too difficult. It's incredible that we have the technology now. There's no barrier of entry. There's no large network that you have to get approved by and spend tons of money to get on. You get a microphone for $50. You Zoom. There's tons of different services out there, and you can start a podcast and
Yeah,
just get your message out there. But be clear on what you want to talk about. Be clear on who your audience is, and just do it for the right intentions to add
yeah,
value and really improve people's lives.
yeah. That's the thing, Austin. I think that for many people, they get lost with how to prepare for it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now I've seen plenty of podcasts as well that are not very clear as to what they do,
Yeah.
and that's probably one of the biggest impediments, is that they're not clear with their message, and they're not really defining who the audience is. So
Mm-hmm.
that's really tough. And yeah, you're right though. I mean, listen, all you need is a cell phone, is a mobile device, and Anchor. That's
Yep.
it. The online podcast thing. I'm plugging them for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Whatever, that's one of them. So I don't get paid by these guys or anything. But yeah, you can get as simple or as complicated as you want. It's like we have a whole setup here. We have a whole studio here, but yeah, you don't need to do all that. But I think getting your message out there and finding your tribe for whatever it is you do. It doesn't have to be real estate. It could be anything. Maybe like card collecting. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, go connect with your tribe. That's one thing I totally underestimated when I was living corporate. I was just living the corporate life. I'd go home and sit down and eat, go to sleep, and repeat. I wasn't really socializing. Now I've realized that socializing, that's where you're delivering value to other people, and they're giving you value in return. Again, the
Absolutely.
symbiotic relationship I said earlier, right? It's right
Yep.
there. It's with
Yeah.
everything.
And even with technology, we're seeing with the whole COVID shutdown, more people are listening to podcasts than ever before, and we're still able to have a conversation and interaction. And it's something that we'll really always be able to do, and people can do anytime at the gym, driving through the car. It's something that is very easy to access. And I think with technology, it's never too late to get started with it. It's something that you're passionate about and you feel like you'd like to do. So.
Yeah.
Any other nuggets, advice you'd like to share as far as real estate syndications and podcasting?
If anybody is thinking about doing anything with real estate, I prefer syndication because it works for me.
Hmm.
I'm kicking around doing other types of things down the road, but right now it's all about multifamily syndication. I know it, I understand it, it works great. I have my friends, my partners do it. Like every people in my life, the ones that I'm really, really close to, they're all related to this business, right?
Awesome.
And but for those that are on the fence out there, you need to take action. You got to do it. Whatever it
Absolutely.
is you might do. Maybe it's single family. I don't care, man. I mean, I'm personally, I don't like small deals because I got burned on them a bunch of times, and I'll never do that again. But you know, I'll tell you, man, it's taking action is one of the hardest things for us to do, and we really that's the hardest thing right there. I mean, syndication, we can talk about it all day. It's really putting the energy into making something happen, and believe me, whatever it is that you want to do, it's worth it. Just take action. Don't just and I have to believe that if you're just sitting watching TV, you could do better.
Yep.
You could do better.
Yep. You're not going to regret missing that episode, but you might regret not taking action towards your
Exactly.
dreams and goals. Great takeaway. Where can people get connected with you if they're interested in getting into your mentorship program, if they're interested in investing with you and interested in listening to your podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. So bulletproofcashflow.com, we're everywhere. We're on, of course, iTunes, Stitcher, the usual suspects, right? We're also on YouTube. So
Awesome.
please go there and check us out there. We put up a lot of other material as well. We have more material coming out. We're going to be ramping up our podcast schedule as well. So that's going to be exciting. But, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, even TikTok. No,
Even TikTok.
I'm just kidding. I haven't done any dance videos yet. I don't know if anybody wants to see that, but I'll work on that.
Awesome. I'll include the connections in the show notes, as well as we talked about the shortness of life. I'll include that in the show notes as well. And then just some key habits that we talked about on the show was just working out in the morning, kind of having that morning routine, that self-talk, having your affirmations, your vision board, and writing. Really write that out as it's presently happening. Take ownership of that today. Last question for you, Augustina. What is your why? What keeps you so motivated? What's your mission in life?
Wow. I have a boy. I have my son,
Mm-hmm.
and he's going to be 10 years old here soon. And in many ways, he saved my life, and that's a whole other episode right there. But I'm trying to. I want to leave him a legacy that his kids will know my name. That's how big I want it to be,
I
right?
love
So
that.
to build something that big, I'm gonna be working a lot, right? And I don't mind that at all, man. But that's how big I want it to be, man. So
Awesome.
I want it to be indestructible. That's the why. That's the why.
Absolutely love it. That's a great why. And the why of the Passion First podcast is to help you understand the model of success, the tools, systems, mindsets, and strategies of other successful business owners, entrepreneurs, and investors so you can find your success following your passion. Don't go follow the 9 to 5 just because your mom and dad told you. If you are passionate about business, go follow your dream and make it happen. And if Augustino or I can help you in any way, whether that's real estate related, whether that's podcast related, reach out to us. We'd love to connect and help you any way we can. Thank you so much for watching another episode of the Passion First podcast. You have a passion-filled day.